My name is Carter, and the chilling tale I am about to recount is of a dark chapter from my grandfather Leonard's past. A story which he shared with me one eerie night. The story was of the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum in West Virginia, a place infamous for its harrowing tales and sinister occurrences, where he had worked as a young orderly during the dark ages of psychiatric care. One chilly evening, as the winds howled outside, we sat by the fireplace, its flickering flames casting long shadows across the room. With a far-off look in his eyes, Grandfather Leonard began recounting his days at the asylum. His voice trembled with the haunting memories that seemed to cling to his soul.
One of the most haunting experiences was the ice pick lobotomy. The doctors would take an instrument resembling an ice pick and insert it through the eye socket, tapping it with a hammer to reach the frontal lobes of the brain. The aim was to sever nerves and alleviate what they believed were the causes of insanity. The screams, the vacant stares of the patients post-surgery. It was a sight no hell could parallel.
He whispered, his eyes glazing over as if seeing the horrors of the past. I shuddered at the thought. The imagery was too gruesome to digest. I asked him, "Grandpa, how could they? I mean, was there no opposition to such barbaric treatments?" He sighed deeply.
We were in a time where understanding of mental ailments was primitive. The word of the doctors was the law and opposition. There were a few who opposed, but their vices were drowned in the cries of the doomed.
His narration moved to hydrotherapy.
Patients were submerged in ice-cold baths, restrained so they couldn't escape. The icy grip of water, their desperate gasps for breath, the terror in their eyes was a horrifying sight. Others were wrapped in icy cold sheets, bound tightly, left for hours in a horrifying blend of cold and confinement.
I felt a chill run down my spine. "How did you manage to witness all this, Grandpa?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He said, looking into the fire,
"It was a job, Carter. But it tormented me every passing day. The faces of those poor souls haunted my nights."
The tale continued with the description of the Utica crib, shock therapies, and so on. He shared an anecdote of a young man named Tim.
They subjected him to insulin shock therapy, injecting large doses of insulin to induce comas. Tim would tremble, his eyes rolling back, his body seizing in a grotesque dance of death, only to be revived at the brink, time and time again. It was a torture no living being should ever endure.
As the night deepened, Grandfather's words echoed through the halls of my mind. His eyes, now wells of endless torment, looked beyond the veil of reality into the darkness of the past. That night I couldn't sleep. The harrowing tales replayed, twisting and turning into grotesque shadows that danced across my bedroom walls. The eerie reality of what humans could do to one another chilled my core, a cold realization that nestled within my soul, never to leave. My relationship with Grandfather deepened after that night. His tales imprinted a mark of grim reality, a tale of a time where humanity ventured into the abyss of ignorance and emerged scarred for eternity. My name is Donald, and my curious nature often led me down less traveled paths. The desolate Whispering Pines Asylum on our sleepy town's outskirts had always piqued my curiosity. Overgrown with ivy and shrouded in ghostly tales, it was a place most dared not venture near. However, one crisp autumn evening, my friends and I, fueled by adolescent daring, decided to uncover the mysteries within its haunted halls. As we approached the gloomy structure under the pale moonlight, a chilling breeze seemed to warn us of the unseen veil that hung over the forsaken building. My friend Julia, undeterred, led the way as we pushed open the creaky doors into the unknown. The silence within was deafening, broken only by the occasional whisper of the wind through the broken windows. We wandered through the dark corridors, our torch lights unveiling glimpses of what once was a bustling asylum. The notorious Room 202 was our destined exploration point. It was said that a patient of a twisted mind, who claimed to converse with spirits, resided there before the asylum's abandonment. As soon as I opened the door to Room 202, a cool breeze seemed to emerge from the darkness, reaching us. The shadows began to sway under the flicker of our flashlights, creating a ghastly spectacle. Then, a quiet, barely discernible whisper filled the air.
"Why are you here?"
The voice was cold and melancholy. Julia, gathering all her courage, uttered, "Who are you? Where are you?"
"I am the one who remains here, in forgotten darkness. I am the one who found no peace."
The ghost replied, his voice becoming more distinct and promising. Tom mockingly remarked, "So you are the ghost of this place. Tell us your story." The voice held its breath before answering, creating a dramatic pause.
"I was a patient in this asylum. My days were full of pain and suffering. But one day, I gained the ability to see the future. Yet my predictions were ignored, and I was confined here, in this room."
The ghost articulated. His voice was full of bitter irony. Suddenly, Julia found an old medical journal on the floor and picked it up. "Is this your story?" she asked, showing the entry about a patient who claimed to see the future.
"Yes, that's me. My future had evil in it, but I was misunderstood. Now I see your future."
Tom, trying to hide his fear, laughed. "And what do you see?"
"I see the three of you, returning here again, but not by your will."
Our gazes met, and silence hung in the room. Julia, turning pale, pointed to the last page of the journal where it was written in black and white. 3 visitors will return after 20 years, and their fate will be decided." We felt the air in the room become heavy with the ghost's insinuation. What other secrets does this asylum hold? This uncertainty radiated coldness, and it was clear that we had encountered something unimaginable that would leave an indelible mark on our hearts. A series of whispers filled the room almost instantly, narrating tales of torment, despair, and a dark history that led to the asylum's forsaken state. The reality of our fearsome venture was sinking in. Our hearts pounded as we stumbled back towards the entrance, the ghostly whispers echoing through the bleak hallways. As we sprinted out into the comforting embrace of the night, we knew we had just skimmed the surface of the abyss that was Whispering Pines Asylum. We sat outside, catching our breath, the eerie tales from Room 202 replaying in our minds. Breaking the silence, Julia murmured, "We delved into the unknown, and now the unknown knows us." The harrowing experience at Whispering Pines Asylum left a lingering shadow over our youthful daring, an eerie adventure etched into our souls. its chilling whispers a haunting melody to our once unyielding curiosity. Each time I pass the forsaken structure, I can't help but feel the unseen eyes of Whispering Pines Asylum peering into the depths of my being, its whispers echoing through the haunting silence that veils the forgotten tales of the unknown. Once a haven that society had discarded, the Old Town Asylum had been abandoned for decades. Encased in overgrown weeds and vines, the building stood as a testament to the harsh realities of mental health stigmatization. I was always intrigued by forgotten places and the stories they held within their walls. One brisk autumn evening, driven by an inexplicable urge, I decided to explore the forsaken asylum. Armed with a flashlight and a small backpack filled with essentials, I embarked on this solo adventure. The rusty gates creaked open with an eerie groan, greeting me to a realm where the past seemed to echo through the corridors. As I walked through the dim hallways, the shivers of despair that once engulfed the souls confined within these walls danced around me. I could almost hear the whispers of forgotten memories flowing through the cracks in the walls. I reached the solitary confinement wing, and a deep chill ran down my spine. The eerie silence was only broken by my own breathing. Curiosity led me to a cell at the far end of the hallway. The door swung open with a loud creak, revealing a room that time seemed to have forgotten. On the wall, I found old newspaper clippings, and among them, a photograph of a young nurse, her smile a stark contrast to the somber environment she worked in. I began to read the articles, and they told tales of a compassionate nurse who went above and beyond to provide solace to the tormented souls she cared for. The tranquility of the night was interrupted by the sudden clattering of metal against the floor. My heart raced as I saw an old medical tray falling off the decaying shelf. Pushing my fear aside, I continued exploring the room. Hidden behind the wristed locker, I discovered a journal. As I skimmed through its pages, I came across the thoughts and poetic musings of Nurse Amelia. As I dove deeper into her writings, I began to feel a connection with Amelia's compassionate longing to alleviate her patient's pain. She wrote about a patient, Ethan, whose tortured mind found peace in the small gestures of kindness she offered. My eyes were drawn to a particular entry dated November 13, 1978. Amelia had written about a chilling incident where Ethan had a violent episode. Still, amidst his rage, he recognized Amelia and her calming effect on him, causing him to retreat from his violent endeavor. The wind howled through the broken windows, sending waves of cold shivers down my spine as I pondered the complex bond between Nurse Amelia and her patient, Ethan. The asylum seemed to come alive with each word I read, blurring the line between the past and the present. As I continued my exploration, the atmosphere in the asylum began to change. Despite the abandonment, something elusive emerged in the air. The vibration of the past seemed to seep into every nook of this gloomy building. Suddenly, I started hearing strange sounds, distant whistling, footsteps, even faint whispering echoing in the depths of the abandoned corridors. With each passing minute, my nerves became tenser. I felt that every step further into this gloomy place took me further away from reality and closer to something horrifying. The footsteps became louder, emanating from dark corners of the building as if someone or something was trailing me. For a moment, I stopped to listen. These steps were erratic yet consistent. I felt the air grow heavy, and each breath filled with coldness. I turned on my flashlight and examined the dark corners but saw nothing. However, the sense of presence was intensifying. I kept moving, but the sounds didn't cease. It seemed an undiscovered threat awaited me in every room, every corridor. With every step, the whisper grew louder, as if the voices of the past were striving to convey their forgotten stories to me. At one point, I thought I saw a shadow at the end of the corridor. It disappeared as quickly as it appeared, leaving me in tense anticipation. My steps echoed louder in the deadly silence of the asylum, every sound amplifying my fears. As I transitioned into the next corridor, I felt cold air gliding over my neck. Unexpectedly, I heard ominous whispering right by my ear. I swiftly turned around, but nobody was there. Fear became my sole companion in this exploration, while the darkness of the asylum engulfed me deeper and deeper. The shadow at the end of the corridor appeared again, but this time, it stayed as if inviting me into the dark depths of the forsaken refuge. I followed the shadow, unknowing of what awaited ahead, in a realm where the line between reality and nightmare became increasingly blurred. Hours felt like minutes as I explored the intertwined lives that once found a sliver of hope amidst a world of despair. I left the asylum with dawn breaking, but the poignant tales of compassion, understanding, and hope amidst a sea of forgotten torment.